everyone. Welcome to Prelude 2018. So my name is Andrew Kirk. I'm the curator for this year's Prelude, and what you're here for is a studio visit. This is a format that we introduced last year, which allows us to just have a multi-pronged experience or a multi-angle experience of an artist who is working on some sort of new project in process. And so it includes tonight a bit of sharing of that project in process, but then also we have invited Jane Comfort to create what is sort of a critical response, not to the work necessarily, but certainly to Dan and his work largely. And then Dan will give us a little bit more context for what he's working on and where he is right at this moment. And then we'll have some time for Q&A after that. So that's the order of events for the evening. And with that, I'll turn over to Dan.
Take this cup. I'll place it over at the desk over here so you can have your tea while we go over the paperwork and discuss anything else about the hotel that you're interested in. There's your view of the city. Isn't it lovely? It's such a beautiful time to be in DC. the cherry blossoms. I know you're a local, but it's still always nice to come in and have a little getaway. It's one of the reasons why people are able to sleep here. Again, being somewhere away from home often allows you to leave your troubles behind. Well, let me tell you a little bit more about the amenities that we have here. Like I said, we've got the full kitchen. The couch does pull out into a full bed. And honestly, I know you're not planning on having guests, but you'd be surprised how many people who are having insomnia problems will open up the second bed just to try another bed. As comfortable as our beds are, again, people who have difficulty sleeping, as I'm sure you know, will try almost anything. So sometimes just moving to another bed. Our pull-out beds are very comfortable. They are firmer than the large beds. So if you prefer a firm bed, then I might recommend sleeping on the pull-out in the couch instead. Now you like a little bit softer? Okay. Well then the bed that we have here should be very comfortable for you. We do have a full pillow menu. So if you'd like a buckwheat pillow or a feather down pillow or a foam pillow or a Tempur-Pedic pillow, anything you want. We have many guests who will say bring them all, and then you can pick once you've had different options. Yes, we have several different options on your bed as well, so if those don't work for you, we can definitely get you some others. The amenities we have here are really lovely. They're all made with citrus sage, which is a very relaxing scent. Oh, are you comfortable? Okay, good. It's a very fresh, clean formula. They're eco-friendly products, and we use them. Again, the sage is relaxing. The citrus is also invigorating after a good night's sleep, which we want everyone to have. We like to have something to wake you up a little bit. Our body lotion is a tea tree lotion by Paul Mitchell. It's energizing. I'm not going to have you smell it right now, but it does smell wonderful. The reason I'm not going to have you smell it is because we don't want you energized at the moment. We want you winding down with your relaxing tea. And I know it's light out, but it will be dark enough soon. And from my understanding, you are ready to sleep whenever we can get you to sleep. Is that right? Okay. Well, one of the things that we need to do is we have your paperwork down here. We have almost all of your information, so all we really need is to have you sign. And just initial over here. Okay, and we have your credit card on file, but if you'd like to change that upon checkout, you're welcome to. We do fast checkout, so as long as we're keeping everything on your credit card, all you need to do is leave your keys in the room, and you won't need anything else. Okay. So, have you thought about what you would like me to read to you this evening? Well, we have a few different options. If you brought your own book, we can read that. We have books and magazines in our library. But honestly, what I recommend most is reading the drive for you. You're not in DC every day. So this has what's going on in the area right now. And it's not riveting. And that's the one problem with stories. If they're good stories, they may be a bit too exciting for you to fall asleep. So if you want, I can start off by reading this, and you can finish your tea, and then when you're done with your tea, you can go and get changed, get ready for bed, and then I will sit while you try to fall asleep, and I'll continue to read either this magazine if you find that's working for you, or we can read something else, okay? So, let me start here. Let's see what's going on. The Winter's Tale is playing, William Shakespeare. These are at the Shakespeare Theater. We're having Passport DC. So 70 of the embassies will be open during a month-long citywide salute to cultural awareness. The Around the World Embassy Tour is on May 4th, and the EU Embassy's open house is on May 11th. They offer entertainment and cuisine unique to each country. At the Australian Embassy, diplomats present live Aussie animals and Vegemite samples, while France and Germany toast 50 years of friendship with dual jamboree. On May 18th, there will be Fiesta Asia.
Streets of life, baby, it's alright. Don't even pay me no mind. I'm just looking for my yesterday. So I won't memory. I watch them fade away. The night will come and the dawn will fall. Put that fallen bird, put it back in its nest, and the bird will sing out loud, oh, sing out loud, through its breast. I'd always do something to make her cry. Like tear a castle down, and I love it's like lollipops running through the rain. Pressed against that gentleman. If you see me running through some streets of life, baby, it's alright. Don't even pay me no mind. I'm just looking for my yesterday. So a lonely memory. I watch them fade away. Oh, sweet baby man.
you like me to continue to read? Turn off all the lights. Just relax. Are you comfortable? Okay, so I'll keep reading just a little bit, and I'll show myself out quietly. Yes, you won't be disturbed by any phone calls or anything. If there seems to be an emergency, I will speak with the person on the phone and find out if it's something I should wake you for. So don't worry. You can just relax and everything will be taken care of. Right? So I'll just read a little bit longer. Let's see.
como ríe la vida, y tus ojos negros me quieren mirar. Y si es mi buena de pavo, la corrijalera es como un cantar, en la piedra y herida, todo se olvida. El día que me quiera, la ropa regalada, la vestida vieja, con su mejor color, ya viene con la carpada, de la vejez de envidia, y loca colorada, recordará tu amor. La noche que me quiera, desde el azul del cielo, las estrellas celosas nos mirarán pasar, y un rayo misterioso para nido en tu pelo, lo piensa la curiosa, que verás tu cuerpo, el día que me quiera, no habrá más que armonía, será clara la aurora y alegre el manantial, traerá quieta la brisa, rumor de melodía, y nos harán las fuentes su canto de cristal. El día que me quiera, endulzará tus cuerdas el pájaro cantor, florecerá la vida, no existirá el dolor. La noche que me quiera, desde el azul del cielo, las estrellas celosas nos mirarán pasar, y un rayo misterioso anidó en tu pelo,
your window. Severe as the prairie of your room. Mobile spins to its collision. Clear puts a head between the poles. Mobile shops down on the west side. Holy cat, I find a home. But the key to the city is in the sun that bends the branches to the sky.
It's now my great pleasure to welcome to the stage Jane Comfort, who is our critical respondent. As I said, it's not about the critical response being an explication or unpacking of what you just saw. The artist is invited to come and trace their own discoveries from the artist's work, from this new piece, or from whatever inspires them. So Jane, the stage is yours.
I just want to say, when Dan asked me to do this, because it's a duet, it was sort of hard as a soloist to do a response. So actually, he said, I want you to talk about when you hired me as a 19-year-old. And I picked Eternity. I don't know if anybody's seen that piece he did with Chuck Mee. And I took a lot of material from Eternity, props and stage direction and some of his dances. And so this is a response mixed in with memories of knowing Dan, with the Chuck Mee piece, with apologies to Chuck Mee because I'm not using any of his text. Okay. I first saw Daniel Safer across a bar at Bass Dance Festival in 1992. He was covered with tattoos and silver jewelry. Took one look at him and I thought, rich kid from New Jersey. Mark Dendy took one look at him and he thought, cute gay boy. Daniel hung out with us at Bates. He was having meals with us. He stayed with us after hours. And at one point he said he was going to NYU and he thought he should be our intern. Mark thought that was a fabulous idea and that we should make him a paid intern and not a freebie intern. In addition to the tattoos and the jewelry, Daniel also sported a big collection of hats. So Mark, playing on his name and the hats, started calling him Hattie McDaniel. And we call him that to this day. The only people who can call him Hattie, though, are the original cast members of Faith Healing, and that is Nancy Alfaro, Mark Dendy, David Newman, Scott Willingham, and me. At Bates, Mark quickly started hitting on Hattie. At one point, Hattie said, Mark, I'm straight. And Mark said, and I'm Martha Washington. Mark completely failed with Hattie. And he told me later he was very embarrassed because in those days, failure was not an option for him. Hattie did come back to NYU, came to New York, And his first job with us as an intern was setting up chairs, great job, setting up chairs at APAP at City Center Studio. Afterwards, when we were breaking down the room, the next choreographer to come in and do a showing hit on him immediately. So Hattie told me that recently, and I thought, okay, Mark Dendy, this guy, probably being an intern with us was not the greatest thing morally. But you know what? It was 36 years ago. He was a teenager. It doesn't matter. I liked beer then. I like beer now. I like it a lot. I'm so sorry. That's another story. Go music. Go music.
Go music.
Not that music.
Sorry, Sue. I don't see Chung in your contacts.
Graduated to more bit parts in our piece, Faith Healing, which was a deconstruction of the Glass Menagerie. And he played, at the top of the show, this young Christian who would pull believers out of the audience. Where are you, Hattie? You want to play this role? Remember it? So he would pull the believer out.
Yeah, and then I had to catch you, right?
You know, we're working towards that. And he would bring them towards a telephone that had Jesus Christ on the other line. And when they fainted from the force love of Jesus, woo! He would drag them over there, to their position.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
25 years ago.
That's okay. Thank you, darling. For the top of the dinner scene in Glass Menagerie. Honey, don't push with your fingers. If you got to push with something, the thing to push with is the crust of bread. And chew your food. Jennifer Dunning reviewed that piece in the New York Times, and she said, Dan Safer pops up in a variety of supporting roles. Dan's mom still has that review on the bulletin board in their kitchen 25 years later. I'm having a blank, but it'll come to me. Oh dear. This is every nightmare every performer would ever have. Okay, I'm just going to jump ahead in life. Okay. Oh yes. Okay, got it. Well, I think I've missed something. Anyway, at one point, this choreographer was taking all the men from my company and asking them to join her company after watching them perform with mine. I mean, all of them. So it was kind of like an inside joke. At one point, I asked Dan if he knew any actors who were really good at movement, and he recommended Sean Donovan, who was a member of his Witness Relocation company. And Sean joined our company in 2007. In 2010, we did a reprise of the Glass Menagerie piece, and Sean recommended a fellow Witness Relocation person, Heather Christian, to play Laura Wingfield. Shortly after that, I got this cryptic email from Dan saying, wow, taking all those performers, kind of feels like deja vu all over again. But I was like, no, it's fine, it works out. We're going to share. And it worked out. It was great. So then I took another one from Witness Relocation, Javi Perez. Around the late 90s, Mark Dendy asked Hattie and me to be part of a show he was doing at the Pyramid Club. He wanted us to interrupt his drag queen show, Sandy Sheets, as hostile males, and then be taken backstage, turned into drag queens, and brought back up and redeemed on stage. I had been taking Diane Torr's Drag King workshop, and I had spent quite a lot of time as a male in downtown clubs. Mark was playing Sandy Sheets that night at Avant Garde-Rama at PS 122. I went backstage, put on my male beat, and followed him and Hattie to the Pyramid. Mark was hassled the entire way. Cat calls, men touching him, yelling at him, coming behind him. He just kept walking faster and faster and faster, and Hattie and I were just scurrying along behind him. When we got to the club, Hattie and I got beers. We stood at the back of the room, watched Sandy Sheets. At one point, we walked up to the stage. Hattie put his empty beer bottle on the edge of the stage, and he just rolled it past Sandy Sheets. The sound of that empty beer bottle rolling up the stage was so terrifyingly hostile, the whole club went quiet. It was just silence. Laurie Side was there, Laurie Side, and she said she was like, "Oh God, this is real. Oh God, this is trouble." The Sandy Sheets just looked at us with kindness, and she invited us to come up on the stage, and these makeup people came out, and they took us backstage, and they brought us out as drag queens, and we were redeemed. I later started competing with Mark on stage because, I don't know, like jealous sister, whatever. And at one point, I just leaned over and licked the banister going up to the stage, and people were horrified. They came backstage afterwards and said, "Oh God, go to the emergency room. I cannot believe you did that. You licked a banister at the Pyramid?" So Hattie got me a thing of vodka, and I just sort of like swished my tongue around in it, and then I was like, gargled it, and it was fine. In 2010, we did revive the Glass Menagerie piece with Sean Donovan and Heather Christian, Witness Relocation members, playing Tom and Laura Wingfield. Claudia LaRocco reviewed it for the New York Times. She had recently seen Hattie's 5 Days in March, and she loved it. And she wanted to review it, but the Times said she couldn't because it wasn't dance. She must have seen Jennifer Dunning's original review of the piece, because in her review, she managed to mention that Sean Donovan and Heather Christian were members of Witness Relocation, and that company's artistic director, Dan Safer, made a brief appearance in Comfort's 1993 piece. She said that some of our gestures felt a little bit clunky. But she said, whereas today's dance theater hybrids, as handled by the best works of a troupe like Witness Relocation, are a bit more supple. 2 sentences later, she said, Laura Wingfield's character, for example, as played by, Laura Wingfield's character, for example, would recognize the lonely daydreamer that Miss Christian played in Mr. Safer's marvelous 5 Days in March, 2010. By the end of the piece, we weren't sure which company she was reviewing. Hattie was great. He was very, very gracious about the whole thing. In April this year, after a show we did at La Mama, a drunk and my manager were having it out in the lobby afterwards. He had interrupted the show repeatedly and she had tried to get him thrown out. And now he was telling her it was all good and he was trying to hug her and slash par. And Hattie just happened to be standing nearby and he heard someone go, "Do not touch me!" And Hattie just goes like this and puts himself in between their bodies to protect her. That's Hattie, our stand-up guy. He's a stand-up guy with a lot of tats, hats, cats, and charm.
format that I have figured out because I don't like doing these things. Sure, yeah. So the format, I'm going to have a sip of this. Oh, thank you. Wow, people are videotaping this important thing. So this was, when I forgot that I had to do this artist talk, and then I was like, but I have a thing, because, hi, sorry. So I just had this, I had a big fancy job interview last year where I had to do like a talk about all of my work and history and my life and everything. I was like, what do? Because those things are so boring. So I went on the Facebook and I was like, what questions would you want to hear me answer in an interview about me and my work? And people gave me a bunch of really great ones. And so I took them all and I read them over quickly, but I didn't really look at them. And then I gave them to someone and they printed and they cut them up into pieces and they put them in a hat. And I just brought that to my interview to teach at MIT. Great idea, Dan! And we did it where I would draw a question from the hat, and then we would roll dice, and the dice determined how long I would answer the question for, but we couldn't find dice. No, nowhere around here. I mean, I have some at home, but nowhere around here has dice. Like CVS doesn't have dice. So now we just wrote down some random time. But you will be in control. And then I also showed a few videos. But what I think I'll do is there's like 2 or 3 videos that maybe I'll show. But maybe we'll start with a question, right? Or a topic. They're topics. And then you'll pick a time, how long I speak.
Okay, that one.
I pretend I hate this shit, but I love it.
Okay. What do you want first, time or subject?
Subject.
Louder, faster, funnier for 2 minutes.
Tell me when. Louder, faster, funnier was the advice that when I was still an undergrad, I had left school for like a semester. I left NYU for a semester because I was working with Ridge Theater a lot. I was doing shows, and I was like, wow. And then I got assigned, I'm getting there to the answer to this question. I got assigned in this class about avant-garde theater in New York to go see a show at the Kitchen that I was the lead in. And I was like, this is really fucked up. So I left. And then I came back and I finished up most of my credits being a teaching assistant for this amazing directing teacher, Marcus Stern, who's now at ART, he's been there forever. And I was his assistant for like a year and a half. And he was brilliant, brilliant, brilliant teacher, amazing director. And finally, when I was graduating and we were like hanging out once, he was like, okay, do you want to know the secret to directing? I absolutely want to know the secret to directing. And he just said, louder, faster, funnier. I was like, I don't know if that's true. And then as I have, I used to think it was like louder, faster, like more punk rock, or like louder, faster, more offensive, or louder, faster, more hardcore. I was like, it's actually probably louder, faster, funnier. If you think of funnier as like louder, faster, more entertaining, more engaging, more gripping. So funnier is maybe the good word. When I was doing a show once, I was doing this Chekhov thing that Brian Murdas and Melissa Heatman directed upstate, which is awesome. You should all go see it. And it's, it's a sad fucking Chekhov play, but Brian's always like, where are the gags? Where are the gags? Where are the gags? Right. So it's like, it is about finding like those moments, even in like the really dark shit, about finding those moments where you can like have some lightness in it. But yeah, going for more entertaining, more gripping, more unignorable, more like delightful than what you find out there is, I think, a really, really good idea that I will talk about more slowly as we head towards the end of my 2-minute mark, right? It's there on the thing. There's 5 more seconds. Was that not louder or funnier?
Okay, you want me to just go right to the next one?
Next one, and then we'll do a video.
Okay.
There's all this space, but I don't feel like, I don't like being you behind me. I like being like a picture. I'll stand over here so I can't see.
Okay.
You can pick one that you like.
What? Okay.
You don't like that one.
Yeah.
You're like, it sucks.
Okay, what is your creature process in 5 steps?
Creature process?
What does this say? Creative?
It says
Creative.
Okay, no.
That's for me.
30 seconds. Text A to see where they are. That's step part 1 in 5 steps.
Yeah.
Wait for a while is step 2. Step 3 is they show up to rehearsal. That's step 3. Step 4 is I go, a creature. And then we rehearse. That's my 5-step creature process.
What is your creative process in 5 steps and it's 30 seconds? Am I? Okay.
Yeah, go.
Ready? Go.
Yep. In 30 seconds. Okay. Have a thing you want to make. Throw it out immediately as you start working so you can see what's in front of you. Get something that you feel is kind of good. Tear that apart into thousands of little pieces. Put it back together. Boom! How long do I have? Yes! Now we'll show a video. I thought I would show just the 2 dances that Jane recreated, because I happen to have them. So if you had told 19-year-old me that one day Jane Comfort would be doing choreography that I made up, I would have shat myself. Here's the first one. You can see the amateurs who were waiting for the master to recreate it tonight. Wait, there's no volume. Hold up, is there sound on?
The box? Is it on?
I don't know. Yeah, that's Sean Donovan and Mike Miko. And that's right now? No? Oh, go. You ready?
Even as a shifting breeze transforms me.
Sourie's in this dance. Freeze with Mickey looking like that. Cool. Okay, let's do one more question and one more video, and then we can do like question.
And do my favorite thing.
Do your favorite
I
thing.
definitely asked you to.
Oh, you looked at all the questions?
No, but I know that this is one of your questions, and I know that I am one of the people who recommended that you use this. It's my favorite. That's too short.
It's supposed to be random.
Okay,
That's the
fine.
art.
So I am the random generator.
Rob, when did you get back? Rob, when did you get back?
Like
60
5
seconds.
days ago.
Amazing.
Sorry, Rob. Scar into a star for 60 seconds.
Okay, okay.
Ready?
Yes. Turn the scar into a star means take the thing that's the problem and go, let's focus on that. Let's make that the thing we're doing. Let's make it about that. So you kind of like, everything that you're like, oh, that's wrong. That's what you're having a strong reaction to. That's maybe the core of what your piece is actually about, or the moment's about. And I forget who told me that, but it's the best advice. It makes me think of John Waters in his book, How to Become Famous. He's like, whatever is your worst trait, amplify it. He's like, have bad skin, rub pizza on your face, change your name to Pimples, become a star. Genius! He also said, if that doesn't work, kill Katharine Hepburn. He said, because she's snotty. But it's like, yeah, take your worst feature and amplify it, and you'll realize, oh my God, that's my best feature. And I do that all the time. Like, I look for like, oh, I don't like that thing, and then I go, that's what I'm gonna dive into. And so far, kind of good. Yeah. Okay, one last video. Do we want to see the party dance that Jane did, or do we want to see the really, really old duet of me with Heather Christian?
Heather.
Okay.
Oh.
Fail to open page. I guess we'll watch the other one. If I can find it now, my old.
We want the creature again.
We want the creature. Yeah, we'll do the. Oh, this was really funny though. We'll do this one.
In a state of searing agony.
I'll explain it after.
In a state of searing agony, find that red paper ball out of a thousand paper balls. In a state of searing agony, find that red paper ball. On side 25, take a chair. Duck walk with a book on your head. In a state of completely unwholesome lust.
I used to have hair.
Unwholesome lust. 0, unwholesome lust. Unwholesome lust. Yes, unwholesome lust. Spin around in a circle as fast as you can, go staring straight at the ceiling. In a state of utter deep despair. Utter despair as you spin around as fast as you can, staring at the ceiling. Stare at the ceiling
But we'll watch this one because it's fast. No, because that one's like 7 minutes long, and I just want to, yeah, we got a cruise, baby. Questions?
Yeah, let's do it. So we have a little bit of time to take some questions from you all. All I ask is that you keep it a question, no preambles, no statements. You got plenty of time to bum rush Dan and everyone and share all your love. But what's that? Hey, sorry, hey. Apologies. But right now it's about questions. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand.
What I love in a Q&A is when someone goes, I'm also a choreographer.
There you go.
And do my work, and then they talk about themselves for 5 minutes, and they go, So please.
Any questions?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
What is your ideal setting for that performance you just did here?
Oh, well, this is so, I need to use this, it's so loud. Are we recording it, so we want it for posterity? Okay. We were making it to work in multiple spaces. Yeah, you stand, that's better. We like to do it in a theater situation like this, but when we worked on it at Orchard Project upstate, we did it in the back room of an Irish bar in Saratoga, and that was awesome. We're building it to work in like lobbies, art galleries, theaters, bars. We've been talking about doing it in a hotel room and recording it. So it's made to work, like it has, like the light cues that we had are awesome if you're in a theater, but we don't need them. Like we plug into the sound, we go there, it takes like 10 minutes to load in, and we can just do it. It came from, our last show was, I loved it, but to tour it was like 14 people, and I was like, it's just not happening. So I was like, how can I make the tiniest thing that would fit in one suitcase? And also like, how can you use your resources intelligently? So it was like tiny show, I was terrified of making a duet. I'm awful at it, so that's why I wanted to do it. I was like, I'm scared of this form. And how can we make it work in any possible settings? Like we could do it in a park, we could do it anywhere. So really anywhere. I'm curious to see. I would love to do it like at an airport lounge, you know, like, but not get arrested. So yeah. So the answer is anywhere. Maybe not like in the middle of a highway. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you. So when you're making a piece like this, you talked earlier about the creative process, about like tearing apart, putting back together, tearing apart. So whatever you're starting with, what is the kind of thing that you keep? Like, will it be like a few moves? Will it be a certain part? Will it be a tone? Like, what are the kind of things that you'll get rid of and like keep reforming? And like, what is like the thing that sticks through from the beginning?
Do you want to answer it?
Well, I'll just, I mean, not to speak for all Witness Relocation, but something that I have found throughout my time as a company member with Witness is that much of the time, the movement that we make, the movement that you see throughout an entire show, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour, is generally based on the same like minute and a half set of moves. So the entire show is based on just that. Like our last show, each of the moving company members made about a minute of material, and that's all, and we combined it, and that's pretty much all we used for the entire show. So we generally tend to keep those kinds of nuggets and then fuck with them like endlessly.
Yeah, or it's like we'll make an alternate version of a thing, and then make an alternate version of that, and then an alternate version of that, and then like take a solo, turn it into a duet, get rid of the original thing, so you have the other moves, but everything's constantly like jumping off of the thing before it. This piece started, I think, with none of it is left. We took some moves from Bride of Frankenstein. We watched Bride of Frankenstein. We took a few moves from that, and none of them are in there anymore.
Yes, there is one section that is still there. There is one section that is still there, and that is just the.
Oh yeah.
That section.
Yeah. So there's one little bit from Bride of Frankenstein still in there, but we left that a long time ago. It's like we'll pick a thing to generate from that has the right feeling or emotional quality or mood, and then make it, and then abandon that original inspiration and go, what fits inside this box now? How do we fill it up? Yeah. Did that answer it?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Having just done this excerpt now, and also having just experienced Jane's amazing critical response.
Which was awesome, thank you. I'm so honored.
Seriously. What are the scars that are standing out in the piece right now? Like freshly having just done it?
Oh. I don't know. I have a really hard time with this piece because I'm in it, so I can't see it.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly having to switch my brain from this like director choreographer brain to this performer brain. And right now I've been focused on being super performer brain. Like I am. Did you have to tell me? Did I forget anything? One thing during this.
Yeah, but that's the nature.
Yeah, but like I am not used to learning that much choreography. When we do a show, I never know all the choreography of the piece. Like the dancers, like they generate stuff and then I mess with it and I edit it and we cohere it together. But I couldn't do all the dances, so I'm right now like I go through this thing in my head constantly, and I'm always forgetting stuff. So I'm so much in performer brain right now, which is super fun, but it's a big shift for me to get back to choreographer brain. I feel like I need more rhythm changes in it. I feel like we could go like super fast a little more, and just a few more shifts in tempo. Is a scar.
I also think that a lot of it is we've thrown out so much of it to arrive at what we have now, and I think a lot of it and a lot of like that. There's also to speak to that. We're coming to meet each other in terms of like the movement itself, because we come from like fairly different movement backgrounds. So we're like really coming to meet, one of the challenges has been trying to come to meet each other in a place where we can both access their material and have it still be really hard and like challenging. But I also think that, and not that this is a continuing, not that this is like a scar per se, but we've been working on some kind of version of this for a really long time, and our personal lives have like shifted and changed so much, and like developed beautifully and whatever, all these things. And I think that if at least for me, so and I think that changes how I do the movement now.
Yeah. Also, hearing that, I would say one of the scars for me is like the dancey dance, like the unison stuff, is a rough point for me. So I want more of that, because it's a huge challenge. Also because I'm like not as good a dancer. So technically at all, I'm just not as good, and I'm old. So like keeping up is hard. So, but I want more of that. Like I enjoy that challenge of like, oh right, I have to do like this. I have to do this pretty thing now, and that's hard for me. So I want more of that, and also because I really like that section. And I feel like that could develop more.
That's the most recent section that we made.
Yeah, we just made that like 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Can I one follow-up question, which is you said you come from different backgrounds in terms of dance training. Can you talk a little bit about what your backgrounds are?
I just kicked that table.
I have very extensive training in ballet. I was in like very intensive programs all through my childhood, through like about when I was 18. I was made to take ballet and jazz and modern and character dance, which if you don't know what that is, it's like a traditional Russian situation. I'm doing it right now as we speak. And some other secret dance forms. And then when I got to college, I was like, I'm never putting on a pair of point shoes ever again. And I didn't. And so I began to work with a more contemporary movement, and that's sort of where I land now. And also have become like I've fallen really in love with contact improv, which is truly thanks to Dan Safer. So.
Oh, segue.
Hands up.
My dance background is I started going to like punk shows in Trenton, New Jersey, and slam dancing, and then I was a go-go dancer for years. We have that in common, the go-go dancing.
That's where it crosses over.
And then I started doing contact improv when I was like 13 or 14, I think. So it's been at least 10 years. That I've been 10 to 12 years. Fuck you, Mark. At least 15 years. So that was, and then like I lived in Thailand for a while and studied Thai classical. And that's been the bulk of it. And then like lots of nightclubs have like voguing and stuff. And my technique has really been like I started choreographing because I couldn't learn other people's choreography. But I was good at doing my own stuff. And then over time, I've been able to pick up other people's stuff, but it's still, that's kind of where I come from, is like this very like punky, nightclubby world. You know, like I was always terrible at sports, but I loved tackling people.
Any other questions? Yes. And then
regarding choreography, do you
Shoes.
I was looking at your shoes for a lot of it.
I'm living my best life right now.
Every time I was on the floor, I was like,
all skills, my life. Regarding choreography, do you start with a piece of music and build movement into it, or do you start with an idea and then you find music to build into it?
We usually don't start with music. We'll start with like nothing and just generating stuff. On this one, we started generating stuff, and then there was a Nick Cave song we really liked that we worked to for a long time. So we'll find things again that have the emotional quality that we want and work to them, but then the movement really matches the music. So it's like, well, matchy. So we get rid of the music and find new stuff. And we worked to the Bobby Womack for a while.
yeah.
But also all of this music is going to go because Heather Christian's writing a score for this. She's going to cover the Johnny Cash, which is a traditional anyway, so we don't have to worry about rights. And then Schultz covered the Bowie song also. But, you know, it's rights issues. But so she's going to cover those and then write all new stuff. And then the voiceover is this ASMR thing that I found online that we're going to keep very similar, but Jeremy O'Harris is writing a new version of it that'll sound a lot like this one, but get even more fucked up because he's writing it. Yeah, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, he said he would have it for me like a month ago. We were going to use it tonight, but
He's
busy.
Yeah,
He's like in Gucci having 5 shows open.
He's somewhere in a Gucci.
He's somewhere wearing Gucci right now with really good hair. So we don't start. We rarely start with music, and then we'll keep changing music. And now like the Bobby Womack piece feels like it really matches that music. So I'm really psyched for Heather to write a new thing. I'll miss that like Argentinian thing, but she'll write something awesome for it. I have no doubt.
I will miss it.
Yeah, but I trust her, and I've worked with Heather for 20 years. I don't know, so it's like I'll just let her do her thing, and we feel really lucky that she is writing a score for us. Sick.
There's another question right over here.
Was there any particularly difficult piece that you worked on, like something you learned a lot from, and how did you get through that?
Or just in my history?
Yeah, in your history.
Oh God, Rite of Spring. I choreographed Rite of Spring for the Philadelphia Orchestra with Ridge Theater, like with a full orchestra on stage for the 100th anniversary of the premiere of Rite of Spring in America. And it was crazy, and like, you know, and they did all their like slides and visuals and stuff, but then all the staging was like, well, you got your dancers, make stuff. And I was so daunted by the, is this on?
Yeah.
I was so daunted by the music, and then, you know, I'd watched like the Peanut, I'm really loud, I'm sorry. But like the Peanut Bausch version is so intense and so ingrained in my brain, and I didn't know what to, and it was actually Dendy. Mark Dendy sent me a Facebook message. He was like, work to the music that really feels like it. He was like, and I was like, right. So I spent the first 2 weeks only choreographing to Lil Jon. And it totally worked. And then I switched it over, and it totally worked. But then I was like, how the fuck do you choreograph Rite of Spring when every amazing choreographer has done it? And it's like, and it's a full orchestra. It was actually cool. The final solo, I based all the movement on it. The conductor was this total badass, this guy, Yannick Nezet-Segoyen, I'm saying his name wrong. And he's this tiny like bulldog, and he's like always like diving everywhere when he's conducting, and like he's just super active. So I based all the movement for the final solo on his conducting style. So when you finally saw it, he's up there like this, conducting, and Natalie Thomas, who's this genius dancer, is in front of him doing all this movement based on his conducting, but like turned hyper violent, and it was awesome. So that's how I solved it. Yeah.
Oh, me? I mean, I feel like I learn a lot from every single piece that I've made. I haven't been making a ton of work in the professional field for a very long time, but something that I love and want to keep doing was it was a crazy struggle for me, was working with live musicians and dance, and how like if I have a band, how can I work with the music director to develop a sense of sound that fits with the movement that I intend to make from the beginning. And of course it has to change, and that's like always really challenging, and musicians want their music to sound the best, and like all often have like a very specific way that they have chosen to play a specific piece or song. And I, as a choreographer and a director, have a very specific way that I would like to choreograph and direct my piece. So that has been a big struggle for me, but it was also one of the most rewarding things, and like I cannot, like combining concert and dance theater are like two of the things that I like care so deeply about. I know that there are people in the audience who also similarly do that kind of thing. And yeah, so that's mine.
Right. We have time for one more question. Anyone has a burning question out there?
One really good.
It has to be the best question.
Best question.
I want to tell you what I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I forgot, and you'll realize why I forgot it. I was going to say that Dan graduated from NYU and became a theater professor in their department. Years later, he asked me to come and teach a class. I slept through the alarm and did not show up. I apologized forever. I said, Dan, I will come back. I will make that class. I'll make it up twice. And he never invited me.
We actually stopped. We actually stopped running that class. So that's why.
You're always invited in my class, Jane.
Yeah, A took over my class. You can always come. Yeah, yeah. I think that's it, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Witness Relocation. This was amazing. I have to say, one of my fondest memories of Prelude in recent years was the Loon. And so to have another amazing show, not displaced, but join the Loon as a favorite memory of mine in Prelude was amazing. Thank you both so much.
Thank you for having us.
And I hope I'll be around tomorrow.